Hello and welcome to Investors Hangout, your weekly guide to making smarter financial decisions. This series is brought to you by Aditya, Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund and Value Research. With me, as always, is Dhirendra Kumar, and together we'll be taking up a question that's on every working person's mind, whether they admit it or not. Are we retirement ready? Now, we've got a viewer who is 55. He's planning to opt for voluntary retirement. He'll get a 50,000 rupees monthly pension and a lump sum of 50 lakh rupees. He owns a house, has medical insurance, and no major responsibilities except a child's wedding. His question is this enough for a comfortable retirement? Welcome, Dhirendra.
Thank you.
Let's begin today's episode with when someone says, am I really retirement ready? What does that really mean?
It means you are financially independent. If your income meaning return from investment, and your pension is invested in such a manner that it can grow and you are consuming 90% of it, left with 10%. And it is invested in such a manner that it can beat inflation over a period of time, right? It can support a rising inflation. And your current expenses are met, and you will not be in a crisis because your medical expenses are completely covered. So given your circumstances, you are financially independent. Maybe for somebody else who does not get pension, the amount will go up. For somebody else who does not have this medical protection against medical emergencies, his requirement for that policy or depending on the health, it could vary. So any other person will require more money to compensate. He is able to retire peacefully and well and completely financially independent with his resources.
Right. But how do I know if my numbers add up?
I'll give, I normally don't suggest a thumb rule, but I would suggest broadly a thumb rule that the money that you need at the time of your retirement, the money that you are likely to consume, for somebody like him, if he does not have that pension and if he does not have that medical insurance which covers his medical emergencies, then you need to plan for it by a very broad rule that you need 350 times of your monthly expense requirement. Somebody needs 70,000 rupees a month, multiply it with 350. That is 350 months worth of capital and invested well, maybe a third or 40% of it in equity, so that you are able to build a portfolio which will be able to beat inflation over a 15, 20, 25-year period. And that will add up to something like 2.5 crore, 2.45 crore. Now, 350 times of your monthly expense requirement is a fairly, middle of the road. I would not say very generous, because your dynamics will change. It depends on your health condition. It depends on your expense inflation in retirement, your lifestyle requirement, or lifestyle inflation, or if it's going to change, or any big expenditure that is still outstanding. If it is 50,000 rupees, then you need 1.75 crore. That is 350 times. So broadly keep this in mind, but these are very ballpark. These are broad rules, good to have, but it entirely depends on your situation. If you have special situations and your family requirement or less requirement, it entirely depends.
What would you say is the ideal mix for safety and growth for retirees?
It entirely depends. If you have some kind of pension, which is providing you the stable income requirement, then you can have a sizable part of your discretionary investments more tilted towards equity. It could well be 2/3 of your money. If you don't have a pension, then you need to invest depending. If you are likely to be consuming 5% of your return, and that is a necessity, then you need to be little more careful, little more conservative. Maybe 35%, 1/3, 25%. Try and do with as little equity as possible. When you have the margin of safety, that is when you need less return, and that is when you can actually take more risk. So this is a paradox. When you are on a tight budget, you can't take chances, then you should not take chances, and that will lower your return. And that is a universal rule. Rich gets richer, and poor guy, or people on the margin might struggle, or they will not be able to create a margin of safety. And not creating margin of safety, because the margin of safety has to be created in your accumulation years, not in the period when you're deaccumulating, withdrawing from your accumulation to sustain yourself.
Right. You've been in this industry for a very long time. You keep interacting with a lot of investors. What mistakes do you find people make most often?
They fall for the moon. That's the first mistake. That's a blunder. That's not a mistake. And because they fall for the moon and they lose the capital, and very early on they have this experience, then their flight to safety. All the money will be in, I'm a good guy, I'm a nice guy, and that is why I only do bank deposits. Their risk tolerance gets destroyed, and they are being taken for a ride. And the third thing is that most people lock in their long-term money for very low yielding instruments, which they don't understand what is going on. They really don't figure out. Most of the time they start with an endowment policy or a ULIP policy, and they're unable to get out of it. And not planning your cash flow. You have to really think in terms of cash flow, that the money that you're needing, you're earning right now, you're not earning it for today. You're earning it for the period when you will stop earning. And it has to be deployed to make it work in a manner that it will work. And it is not just making your money work. It is also preparing your mind, because if you don't go through this experience of riding the market, understanding how it works, reducing the risk by your own investment behavior, you will just not be prepared to take all the risk and embrace equity, assume risk after you retire. There is a whole acclimatization to the process, and that is why you have to do it when you can do it.
Right. Now, finally, if I want to check if I am retirement ready, do you have a checklist for me?
Yes, broadly. There can never be a checklist, because everybody's checklist is unique. Everybody's aspiration is distinct. You can have the same thing at 100 the cost as well.
Right.
And that is a very material thing. But by and large, have a sense of what is your monthly expense. What is your annual expense, which cannot be structured in a monthly format. Non-regular annual expense. That is something which does not cross our mind, because it is not regular. You surely have a reasonable sense of how much monthly expenditure you are incurring. Making sure that you have the health insurance, getting closer to your retirement. If you still have dependents, having that life insurance till you can have it. And then making sure that you have a part of your money invested in such a manner from which you are not deriving income, but it is there to grow in such a manner that it can support higher income. It will lead to growth of your capital. Fifth is that making sure that you are not consuming all the returns. What typically happens is people invest in senior citizen savings scheme and they get an annual return. That's a handsome return, and that's a fairly risk-free return, so to say, because it's a Government of India scheme. And people will feel very happy that you get this much, you spend that much, but that is not enough. 5 years down the line, your capital will remain the same. Your income might remain the same, and it can also come down, because if interest rates go down, it will come down, but your expenses will not. And that is why not thinking in terms of constant. Everybody thinks that my money will grow, but my expense won't grow. Your expense will grow, your money will grow, and then only it can support a higher income.
All right, that's clear. Retirement is not about quitting, but it's about financial freedom without fear. Dhirendra, thank you for these insights. Thank you for watching Investors Hangout. Keep watching the space for more information. If you have any questions, do write into us. We'll try to answer as many as possible. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.